Hello and welcome to our recording on supporting progression for health and science T-level students. Just a reminder that all information provided is correct as of June 23 and may not reflect future changes to guidance documents. Please always review the most up-to-date guidance. So myself and Marina, we are the Provider Development Officers with NCFE, and our role is to support you in the teaching and delivery of the T-levels. So these are our learning objectives for today's session. So obviously our ultimate aim today is to really focus on that student journey through the qualification and how we can support them. And these are our key objectives. So please review them now, and then we'll explore at the end what your next steps are and regarding those. So our agenda for this session is exploring key development areas in the technical qualification. We'll explore a bit of We Share, You Share, which is sharing some key best practice that you provided in a recent workshop. These will be around strategies to develop key development areas and enhancing that student progression. And we'll have a look at some support available for that exceptional written applications. So let's begin with the key developmental areas in the technical qualification to support student progression. So the first question that we have are, what are the key areas of development that students need to progress into workplace or further studies? So just take a few moments to think about that. So here are some examples that your peers shared in our recent workshop. So as you can see, there's a range of ideas here, but it's really those key skills, from those academic skills through writing presentations, handwriting skills, confidence in communicating, reflection skills, more academic skills around referencing, and that applying that theory into real life practical situations. So let's explore what your students need in order to succeed. So these are the key areas that sort of summarize and theme the student success areas. So we have academic skills, vocational knowledge and vocational skills, and professional behaviours. So what academic skills are progression routes looking for? So we had a little review of this. We have health examples here. So those critical analysis, communication, digital skills. We have the science example on the right. Again, you can see this key themes coming up around critical analysis, summation. We have teamworking and organisation skills. And again, these same themes reflected in healthcare science with those mathematical skills and study skills. Across all three, it was highlighted when looking at progression route criteria was this capacity for independent study. So let's explore those vocational knowledge and skills areas now that we've had a look at the academic side. So we have for health, those working in patient-centred way, providing overall care and physiological measurements. So these are the key areas of the specification, and what we've done is we've picked out some key areas that match with what both vocational and higher education routes are looking for from their students and able to demonstrate. And you can clearly see that both these knowledge and skills apply very much to the real life world. Again, we have the same for healthcare science. So these key knowledge and skills areas that we've seen highlighted in job roles in healthcare science and higher education criteria are very key components. And finally, the science ones. Again, understanding of legislation, regulation, and how to actually use techniques in scientific tasks. And what about those professional behaviours? So here we have the health practitioner. Again, we explored key job roles and criterias, and we also explored higher education criterias. And these are the key areas that came up. And it's really good to bear this in mind, because obviously you're about to support your students in their applications for higher apprenticeships, employment, or higher education. And if we can identify these key professional behaviours, then the students can really draw on them and give examples of how they've demonstrated or used it. So these are your key health areas. You've got your collaboration, being inclusive, effective communication, person-centred care. For healthcare science, good clinical practice, good scientific practice. Again, that patient-centred care, working and communicating effectively, and contributing to active research and evidence-led practice. And finally, we have our scientists, being clear, communicating, and in communication and transparent, ensuring data is fair, evidencing integrity, and hearings and promotion of best practice. So next we're going to ask you, what strategies do you think that you would use to support development in these key areas that we've just highlighted? Have a little moment to think before we review what some of your peers' ideas were. So here are some of your peers' ideas. So you can see that they've managed to group it where there's very specific in areas, but actually they've also found that there were some crossovers where maybe that strategy was developing more than one area. So for OS skills and academic skills, when doing a practical analysis, they have to report on the science behind the results, using formative assessment, academic skills like giving students regular feedback and SPAG. Across all of them, you've got using formative assessment and providing feedback. They feel that that would help develop all areas, lots of practicals, lots of modelling and shadowing, and professional behaviours, having things like a uniform, setting uniform expectations before they go into clinical settings, both in the classroom as well as on those placement. And simple, everyday important behaviour such as attendance and punctuality. So let's have a look at some examples strategies we think that you could use additionally to support students' progression. Now, I'm just going to give you a quick summary because we do explore these in our bite-sized recording, in our academic skills and our formative assessment recordings, which I'll discuss at the end. So the first example we have on the left is evidence-based practice. So this is very much a health background and is very common in HE. And this is the symbiotic relationship between clinical experience, understanding of patient values and needs, and research to support all of those ideas and bringing them together. So please explore this practice more in our recording and find out how you can start using that now in your delivery to prepare the students for synoptic assessment, but supporting those progression. Also, we have problem-based learning. This is a really good tool to have group work, cooperative work, team working, critical analysis, problem solving, and engaging in research and independent study as well. So bringing in all those skills that we mentioned earlier. Further, we have the cycle of decisions that is implemented during practicals and has been shown to teach students critical thinking. And we also have the hierarchy of research. So getting the students to sort of think about actually the research I'm using or the piece of evidence I've found, actually where does it fall in this hierarchy from those finite filtered information at systematic reviews at the top to that sort of case controlled unfiltered information, background information. So really using this hierarchy for the students to understand the referencing and the evidence that they're using. Let's look further into how we enhance student progression. So our further questions for you is, what strategies do you currently use to enrich students' experiences, enhance student progression opportunities? Here are some examples from your peer. And you can clearly see it's really about giving them those real life experiences, guest speakers, industry days, meet a professional Q&A, life lab, universities, Bear Lab genetic days. And I like this one up here, this lecturers going on bank staff with NHS. This was the idea that providers, that they felt when they were discussing this idea, is they need to continually work on their own currency and clinical currency in order to be able to actually really share and contextualize knowledge that is current and effective with the students to really enhance their student progression. So now we're going to look at some barriers to learning and why it's really important we think about this, because this can really impact student progression. So there are three main barriers to learning. Emotional issues, which can range from a lack of self-esteem and confidence, often due to low skill levels, to negative personal experiences of learning. They may have a previously undetected or unaddressed learning disability that has hindered them reaching their potential. Social and cultural issues. Students may be subjected to peer pressure and have unrealistic goals. Family backgrounds may also influence where they are when they commence their studies. Practical and personal issues, including transport accessibility to the college, financial difficulties, and lack of access to information to enable them to make an informed choice. We also have here skills that may sort of be impacted that can therefore impact progression. So those study skills, listening communication skills, and reading skills. Colleges should really ensure that the students are taught a range of study skills, including how to research articles, decipher fact from opinion, and how to scan for the information that they require. Writing longer documents in appropriate format should also be covered in order to improve the chance of a student moving on to a higher level course. Students must be encouraged to work independently, understanding the importance of deadlines when to ask for assistance. By teaching the basic study type skills, an FE student has an increased chance of coping with the transition onto another course. Often students are also unable to contribute to group discussions or undertake presentations. This can be due to many factors as already outlined in barriers of learning. However, teaching listening skills and how to contribute effectively to identify audiences can help situation. So often students are unable to research a subject, let alone skim and scan and summarize and use collected information for their own use. These skills have to be taught, and this causes colleges and schools lots of problems around sort of the resourcing of that, the timing of that. With the emphasis being on teaching larger classes with reduced face-to-face time, lecturers don't necessarily have the time to teach more than the main qualification, and managers are under pressure to make the curriculum as cost effective as possible. So really to help support this, college libraries, for example, are often underused and is not seen as an area where students can gain these valuable supports from the skills of the library staff. So now we're going to look at some key ways to enhance student progressions. So these 8 areas I've seen really important in order to sort of support progression. So you've got researching sort of courses, apprenticeship jobs. They really need to understand what is asked of them, what they're looking for, really understand the role and who they need to be and what they need to evidence about themselves and how they meet the need of that job or that qualification. Read challenging books around the chosen area, really sort of engage them in lots of different media. Volunteering is a really key one area, such as St John Ambulance, which gives them that clinical relevance. Getting course related work experience that maybe is beyond just their placement. Working towards an award, such as the Duke of Edinburgh. Learning another language, such as British Sign Language, which is a really great skill to develop. It's a nice thing to have on their applications, and it can even be linked to the knowledge that they've learned around person-centered care, effective communication. Another thing, obviously, a key area to support progression and voluntary work or experience is lifeguards. So things like St John's Ambulance, lifeguards, they learn things like first aid, and they can even get a first aid certificate as well. So these are all excellent extras that can really support student progressions. And then ultimately at the end there, we've got that developing self-belief. Now, obviously, we've already discussed how barriers of learning can really impact this. So really part of nurturing your students' skills, another part of that is nurturing that confidence in them and getting them to say, well, tell me what you're great at and why you're great, which we know sometimes they struggle with. They could probably list off a million things that they feel like they're not great at, but it's getting them to and get them and sort of reminding them, actually, this is what you've done and this is what you're really good at and this is why you're exceptional. So now I'm going to ask you, how does the T level enhance student progression? So we've talked more general, but let's talk about how the T level enhances student progression. So here's some ideas from your peers. So academic and assessment style, we have that critical thinking and problem solving. They say that T level really hones these skills along with those statistics skills. The poster presentation is especially for like for science. This is it's a scientific poster that they need to complete, and this is something that's rarely done at a level 3 and is usually seen in HE. So it's a really good assessment style, and then it really builds on those academic skills as well. Across all of them, we have assessment, like those professional discussions. These are drawing on those communication life skills. It's an assessment style. And it's even sort of those vocational knowledge and skills that the students have to learn. And work placements. These are great life skills, vocational skills. And sort of what has been picked up on is the fact that just those general maths, English and digital skills, they're developed throughout this course and they're assessed throughout this course. And I think these are really great that these sort of functional maths and English skills do continue to be part of the student's level 3 journey and haven't just stopped at GCSE. So let's explore supporting exceptional applications. What are your students' next steps? University, higher education or further training, higher degree apprenticeships, or employment. And what will they need support on in order to go on these next steps? Applications, personal statements, CVs, interviews. So how do you currently engage students in the applications for their next steps? So we have a few ideas here, which was really great. We have one provider who says that they went to local apprenticeship shows where universities were present too. They invited in universities to speak, or they've visited local universities, did loads of mock interviews with career teams, student arranged appointments and sort of practice online interviews, as well as those in-person interviews, because they're very different communication methods, and students can often be asked to do either an in-person or an online interview now. Starting writing personal statements in year 1 when doing the core. I think this really helps the students to start thinking now rather than, oh, well, let's start your application in term 2, right? What did you do last year? Which we know they often forget. So these are some ideas from UCAS, and they've actually come up with some really good teaching strategies to support you or learners in their next steps of applications. So they've got their steps on the left. You know, those why that course, why is it exciting? Study experience, work experience, so getting the students to know under these different categories: life experience, relevant skills, achievements, career ambitions. And then on the right here, they've given some suggested activities. Show, not tell activities, the so what activity, which I think students can have quite a fun with, as long as they know that, you know, don't just keep saying so what, which I could have a feeling will continue to happen. So what, even when the student has finally actually given them the comprehensive answer. And the waffle detective, which I really like, read long-winded personal statements and ask students to raise hands when they detect waffling. So let's link all this together. So we began with those key areas: academic skills, vocational skills, professional behaviours. We explored teaching strategies around these areas. Then we looked at how do we really enhance progression, which links to those UCAS personal statement criteria. So this is how it all links together. So let's just finish off with how we can continue to support you. So as I mentioned earlier, we have our Health and Science T-Level playlist, and these are the different videos that we've sort of drawn on, a bite-sized recording, which we've drawn on in today's session, which you can find in more detail on our YouTube playlist. And just a reminder that you continue to get support from ourselves. You have our T-Level Support Hub, and this gives you access to things like our bulletins, our key date schedule. You'll continue to get regular support from your account executives. And with our sales provider development, you have 3 curriculum consultations once you have registered. If you have any sort of assessment queries, we also have our dedicated email support there, which is tlevelsupport@ncfe.org.uk. So just a reminder of today's aims and objectives. So today's aim was to focus on that student journey through qualification and how we can support student progression. These were our objectives. Here's a moment to reflect on how we've met those objectives today, and also think about what are your next steps to continue supporting your students in their progression. Thank you very much for watching today, and we look forward to seeing you in our future events.